But no, here at departure level 3, the engine is really pumping. I'm a bit too lazy to go up. Yeah, awesome. Welcome to Berlin. Now I'll share this great panorama with you again. Hello friends and welcome to this video. I am currently in the heart of Berlin and all this with the NOKOLIGHT. We have already introduced you to the Noko brand several times, an Italian e-bike manufacturer that really builds great e-bikes in great quality. This time there's an entry-level model and I'd like to introduce it to you now. Friends, feel free to check out our unboxing video about the NOKOLIGHT. There you will find all the important information. Otherwise, our NOKOLIGHT as it stands here can be configured in different colors, frame sizes and especially with accessories. The base price is 1,499 euros and for that you get, for example, a version with this battery here. That is 36 volts, 7 ampere hours, 252 watt hours. If you want, you can also configure a version with a larger battery. That one is of course correspondingly more expensive. The system with the battery reminds me a bit of a water bottle. You just need to plug in a connector down here. I'll do that right now. Now just fasten it, done. You can also read the battery level here on the battery. However, what I would have liked is a mechanism to lock the battery somehow, because if you ever forget, the battery could easily be stolen. Our bike now weighs just under 15 kilograms including the battery and you can load up to 120 kilograms. Then there are the 28-inch wheels with the appropriate road profile. Also 160mm brake discs for the front and rear and a fully hydraulic SRAM brake system with 2 pistons. As you can see, our bike is a hardtail. That means we have no suspension elements. What I really like, however, is the two-tone paint job here in metallic grey and this mate green. Aluminum fenders for the front and rear were included, and otherwise the build quality and especially the frame are really well made. Additionally, there is now a torque sensor. This means the more pressure you apply to the pedals, the more the motor will assist you. Additionally, crank arms from Grinter, also 10 gears with the corresponding derailleur and the Grinter Hub motor M2 race with 36 volts, 250 watts and 45 Newton meters at peak. The rear brake is well packaged, especially with the saddle mount. And here we have the plug connection for our rear hub motor. However, I would have preferred a screw connection here. You can of course adjust the height of the kickstand. Beautiful continuous aluminum fenders, they were also included. Additionally, a MIK luggage rack system that you can equip with a basket or top case using a click system. The only thing I miss is an integrated rear light. You only get a rear light with a battery. I find that a bit of a shame. The saddle is absolutely sporty and certainly rock hard, but hey, anyone who buys such a bike just factors that in. Otherwise, next time I'll just wear my motorcycle pants. At least they have protectors. Yes, also in the rear, the handlebar also appears tidy. The grips offer good grip, but I would have liked grips with a handrest here. The brake levers are in the usual SRAM quality with a good pressure point, by the way. Up here you get the gear display and the controls on the handlebar are familiar. Many of you might also know the display with battery percentage, speed, motor power display and of course the range. Innatsabar Auffahrtzeit T in die Beins. And additionally, there are 5 riding modes here. So friends, those were the most important key data about the NOKOLIGHT for now. I would suggest we hit the road, take a ride through Berlin Mitte, and I'll give you my feedback on how the bike feels. Yes, friends, then I would say, let's just get started. The sun is shining, we are in the heart of Berlin. What more could you want? And now we're going for a nice e-bike test ride here with the NOKOLIGHT. Yes, I already told you the price and data. If not, feel free to check out the unboxing video again. We're riding the bike now without any walking assistance. But you can also activate this walking assistance by holding down the minus button. This is also displayed on the screen. I have to say again, big kudos to the display here. I know this from other e-bike manufacturers who also use this component. Awesome. You can read it super easily, even with polarized glasses. It's little detail I just wanted to mention in passing. Yes, you need to check which frame size fits you in the end. Right? You can configure different frame sizes. You can
check about the handlebars, you can check about the saddle. So there are plenty of options here. I haven't ridden through Berlin Mitte in a long time, especially not by bike. But we bought a new bike rack to be able to film exactly these city scenes. And I'm very happy that we can be out here together today. But I can say, without pedal assistance, it's also not an issue. So if the battery ever fails, you can ride home completely relaxed because the bike only weighs 15 kilograms. The manufacturer itself states around 13 kilograms, but with the battery and everything included, like fenders and a luggage rack, you're at about 15 kilograms. That's how we weighed it, and that's fine, right? Because it's just super light, super smart, so you don't need to worry. So let's start in gear 1 and especially take a look at the wattage. That means we can see on the display how many watts are being used, and that's really cool. This way we can learn to better assess the motor 36 volt system. And let's see if the motor supports us here, and if so, with what power. So I can already say motor support here in driving level 1 at about 50-60 watts, which I just saw. And especially speed dependent, so that we no longer receive support at 15 kilometers per hour. I'll shift up a gear to take a look. 19-20 kilometers per hour, you hardly notice the motor at all. So in level 2, you now have very light support up to 19 kilometers per hour, 18 measured by GPS. But now here from gear level 3, the motor is really pumping, and it might not look like much, 130, 150, 160 watts, but because the bike is very light, and you also have a reasonable gear ratio, a reasonable shifting system here as well. The gear group from Grinter with 10 gears naturally ensures that especially in the higher speed range, the cadence is not quite as high. You can already see at a good 22-23 kilometers per hour, the support here is at a good 60 watts. It is a city bike, one must not forget that. It is not a power machine, nor is it made for off-road, but purely for the city. So let's go one level higher, driving level 4. Yes, now we already have 160, 180, 200 watts, 223. You can clearly feel a noticeable difference between level 3 and level 4. But you have to say, from driving level 3, it really starts here and the motor responds without any delay. So you can say you pedal and the power is immediately transferred to the rear wheel. On one hand, your own pedal power is there, but the motor, if it has no latency, you know, so you don't have this delay, having to wait half a second, half a turn, it can sometimes be a bit tiring, but you don't have that here if the sensor is well tuned together with the motor, meaning the motor management fits in the end. So we'll start in gear 4 and see how the bike performs. Let's see how it pushes. Let's make sure I don't drive into the car here. Yes. 222, 260. I just saw 260. Shift up a gear. 25.3. 24 kilometers per hour measured by GPS. So we see there's still a bit of room. The undercarriage shifting itself is easy to reach. I would probably adjust it a bit steeper in the angle. Let's go to gear 5, start pedaling and see what the bike pushes. I just saw nearly 300 watts there.
That was at the beginning, and at 25.5.
That's the end of the day.
Now I can play around with the gears a bit. Now we're not working so hard against the bike because the bike hardly weighs anything. That's the nice part. 24 kilometers per hour measured by GPS. That means theoretically we have 1 kilometer per hour more to go. You have to take that into account here, but the display at least suggests 25. In real life, it's more like 24 kilometers per hour measured by GPS. Yes, and in fact, it means you need good endurance here. There's no other way because you have neither front nor rear suspension and the tires are more geared towards dynamics, meaning low rolling resistance, so you can cover a good distance with a low pedaling frequency. So please definitely take that into account.
So we also have an underground garage here. There it is already. Once down and soon we'll come back up on the other side.
just to test it in gear 5. If you have inclines now, like I do, what can the motor do? I'll shift down a gear. What's it pushing? 325, 335, 350. Yes, 350 watts.
Feel free to check out Noko's website. They also have the appropriate accessories. There are also these small navigation systems where you get a nice navigation display. I'm more the type to say, okay, here's a phone holder from Fitlock and I'll gladly link that for you again. Phone on and done, right? Then it's chic. That's how I set up navigation. Topic done. You always have your phone with you anyway, and I caught myself doing it. I also have a small navigation system that I forgot to charge because it was lying around for a while, and then you get annoyed when the whole thing doesn't work. So let's turn right and head towards Alexanderplatz. So how about we try out the S-Bahn and U-Bahn now? In other words, we want to take the bike onto the train now. That can happen. So 15 kilograms, yes, that's manageable. Yes, if everyone else takes the escalator, you just take the stairs here. And I can even carry 15 kilograms with one hand. Maybe I'm just well fed right now, but it's still downhill, right? Yes, yes. So that means we've already managed that, but I have to be honest, I'm a bit too lazy to go up. Let's do it this way instead. We can test the brake right here. And as I said, now it's the NOKOLIGHT. Next we'll test the Noko Magma. Be curious, Fire Red. Maybe we should visit Ferrari. We do have Ferrari in Berlin. I'll just put the bike next to a Ferrari. I think that's pretty cool. It would fit perfectly, this Italian flair. Yes, Berlin City Tour here, right? Berlin Cathedral, City Palace, TV Tower. You've got the complete program once. And Museum Island with the full program. So you can see everything. This is the #1 tourist hotspot here. Yes, so fast, not. Tourist hotspot #1. I've already used up 25% of the battery, which I also find interesting. Range might be another topic. How far can you go now? You have two differently sized battery systems. It also depends a bit on which driving mode you are in. I would say, here for the city, oh, there is a noticeable difference between 3, 4, and 5. Oh, wow. So between 3 and 5, I just felt a real jolt as the power was reduced. I'll drive in gear 4. Ah, no, I'll stay in gear 5. So if you're someone like me, you know, who always wants power because you're sometimes lazy, you know, you can, of course, strain the battery relatively quickly here. Then it's probably over after, wow, I guess 40 kilometers, right? It's only 7 ampere hours at 36 volts. Yeah, so far seat of the pants feel is 3 out of 10. It does register a bit, but of course that also has to do with the hard saddle. Nevertheless, it is a city bike that can be handled well in the city, and I think that's the advantage we need to talk about. So bike pushes.
But now I have also started in a relatively high gear.
Yes, awesome. Welcome to Berlin. Yes, taxi drivers, car drivers, and to the left, the police just waiting to pull someone over. Yes, and then of course you also have the road cyclists. It is quite a wild place here in Berlin, I must say, so the motor responds well. I am staying in gear 5, as I said. Now I am already being overtaken by cargo bikes, do you see? Well, maybe I do need to step in a bit more so that it fits in the end. But hey, I'll take you with me to Alexanderplatz now. I think we can take another little round there. So, folks, look, now we are right in the middle of Alex. I'll park the bike here for a moment. Let's take a short breather. We've used 35% of the battery and we've ridden 7.5 kilometers. So according to my calculations, that will be 25 kilometers later. Outside temperature 5 degrees, so a smaller battery naturally also means corresponding range losses if you use gear 5 here. Otherwise, there's nothing to complain about. Hey, there's no negative noise here. Everything is well mounted, especially the fenders with the gear shift. I've gotten used to it now. It fits. I'm happy about the 10th gear, but you do notice that at 25.3, 25.4, the drive noticeably cuts off, and then you coast at about 24 kilometers per hour measured by GPS. Now I'll share this great panorama of Alexanderplatz with you again.
today with the NOKOLIGHT and next time with the NOKOMAGMA. You can write in the comments what is important to you about city bikes. So what do you need? How do you feel about the weight? Is it about battery capacity for you? Which sensor do you prefer? What wheel size? So now here with 28 inches in the tires, I feel quite comfortable, especially out of the box, equipped directly with reflectors. You could just start right away. What is a pity, you know, no integrated rear light with brake light function. I would wish for that. Also on every e-bike nowadays. And what I also find pretty cool lately is that manufacturers are increasingly installing switchable torque and cadence sensors. This means depending on whether you want more performance, you go into the torque area. If you want to take it easy, then you go into the speed or cadence area, and then you have this moped mode, meaning only through movement or rotation, the motor is enabled to produce 25 kilometers per hour, for example, even in first gear. You can do that here too, but you have to pedal until you drop.
Might not necessarily be needed for such a bike that is so light and made for the city.
But feel free to write that in the comments. Maybe the topic of e-scooters and e-bikes again. Why are both not treated equally? An e-bike is simply not a motor vehicle in the traditional sense because you still have to pedal, and an e-scooter runs purely electrically and therefore falls under the machinery directive, requiring the corresponding general operating permit and insurance plate, but it can be ridden from 14 years old without needing a driver's license. Have you heard about that?
E-scooter maximum 22 kilometers per hour. Pedelec 25 kilometers per hour. S-pedelec 45 kilometers per hour. And if you ride purely electrically with your bicycle over 6 kilometers per hour, then you should ask yourself if that is legal, because then you would officially be in moped or motorbike mode, depending on how fast the bike goes.
So now 25 kilometers per hour, and look, this is my cadence, meaning my pedaling frequency in the 10th gear. Super comfortable, super relaxed, comfort level 5 out of 10. So we're also moving in a direction that definitely soon requires a brake.
Wow, yes, brake is more like it, right? Like in the future, the bikes will also have turn signals. There are already some manufacturers who are installing turn signals now. I also think it's a mega gadget. It's a huge added value, especially when you're in the city and don't have separate bike paths like here, just to increase safety a bit.
What do you think about the topic of turn signals? Feel free to write that in the comments. But also here, you know, this tracking, the bike runs super straight. I also find the handlebar pretty cool. It has a nice width, especially since you have enough space.
And just think, now I have my display here. I have my front light. I have my camera here. And my phone is also attached, right? So not much is missing. Maybe the preparation to mount a drink holder here on the down tube or the C-tube, that might have been quite good too. So you see, nobody is perfect, right? I haven't found the perfect e-bike yet either. I usually always have something to criticize, but those are my feelings. Yes, that might also be subjective. Someone else might say, yeah, I don't care, I don't need it. I don't plan for that with such a bike. It just has to work. In, out, done, end of story. I'm with you. But I'm still at the point where I say, okay, we now have 55% battery left, almost 10 kilometers ridden. Yes, okay, 20-30 kilometers, then I would probably tend to go for the larger battery and would rather spend the money to get those range advantages. Of course, you can ride here without assistance, but I always buy an e-bike when I say, okay, I want to have this assistance to relieve myself a bit, you know. So, friends, we're now going a bit through the city.
My battery level has recovered in the meantime. I'm in a good mood, yes. Well, the pop-o-meter is acting up a bit, but all in all, that's exactly it.
So.
So friends, I'm going to start overtaking.
So for us, it's straight ahead.
25.5.
Yes.
The bike is running well. Yeah, I just have to keep moving my butt because it's starting to hurt. So now it's slightly downhill. The bike rolls well.
I'm in a good mood. 10 degrees outside temperature.
Das the battery is stabilizing and the Borotsen was in underload at around 67% for me. That's how it was. You have to be so careful not to get knocked over as a cyclist in Berlin. Well, the bike has one advantage.
On the down tube there, it's saying the surface of gemstone at expensive. The battery looks like a water bottle, and the motor at the back is hidden by the brake disc and so discreet that at first glance you don't even realize it's an e-bike. I mean, you have to acknowledge lidars first, right? To be honest, I have to admit, I'm a village kid now. But if you don't just ride a bike or an e-scooter in the village, but really have to go into the city, I can now really understand much better why more and more people are buying an e-bike or an e-scooter. Because especially in the city, like now, you know, hey, heavy traffic, everyone is stressed, lots of red lights and so on. You're sometimes just as fast on a bicycle, if not even faster. Like with the car. So, and you're even doing something for your health? It is certainly also dangerous because we have to be honest, we know how many cyclists have to experience accidents each year. Yes. Certainly not without danger, especially in a city like Berlin. Still, I'm slowly starting to enjoy the whole thing. Yes, folks, that was our tour through Berlin Mitte. I've now ridden 20 kilometers, still have about 50% battery capacity left, and I've been exclusively in gear 5. So my 40 to 60 kilometers seems to be a realistic value. If that's not enough for you, just get the larger battery version. All in all, honestly, very well made. I didn't hear anything, nothing rattled or anything like that. The shifting was smooth from top to bottom. The motor could use a bit more punch, to be honest. Yes, especially around the 20 to 23 kilometers per hour range. I would have liked a bit more kick, but that's not the case. You also have to say that's where the bike reaches its limits. It is very light. That makes it easy to handle, of course. You know, the brakes are amazing. There's no other way to put it. So it's really just this issue. I was thinking a taillight with a brake light would have been cool, or an integrated front light would have been cool too. So you wouldn't have had these battery operated things and maybe a bit more power. Otherwise, the value for money is great. And I really had to be super careful when I got my coffee that they didn't steal my bike. There were already some colleagues who were checking out how the bike looks and were kind of inspecting it. And you have to clearly say it really is an eye catcher, especially this two-tone design, this glossy black metallic with the matte green. It really looks really, really good. One thing I would really change, but that's just my feeling, is the saddle. Like, it is really rock hard. I've really reached my limit after 20 kilometers with my backside. I would probably get a gel cover or just wear my motorcycle pants next time, yes. All in all, you can already say that this is the usual Noko quality from Italy. You can just feel it, and everyone has to decide for themselves if such a city bike is right for them. You know, something light, agile, 28 inches with 10 gears, you know, you just have a low cadence. Or if you say, I need a bit more comfort, more power, it can also be a bit heavier. At least you can take the bike on the bus and train, store it in the basement or on the second or third floor. That's all still possible. Yes, I had a cool day today. It was fun. And now you write how you find the NOKOLIGHT, especially in terms of the color composition with the configuration options. And I told you what I liked. I also honestly told you what I didn't like. And now you are rewarded. Please give this video a like and a comment. That would be awesome. By doing so, you help me ensure that the video is shown to others, which is good for the algorithm. And that's it from me for now. I'm heading home now. I wish you all the best, and we'll see each other again at the latest in the Noko Magma video. We'll be testing that too. Fire red friends, that's going to be really awesome. I'm really excited about it. So, until next time.